Okay, thank you, Joe, for inviting me to join you in this lectures which are regarding fertility in the 21st century. So I'm going to run through a number of slides that gives my perspective in terms of HR as well as a mother, in terms of the challenges faced within the topic. So our particular area that we are looking at first today is a topic of having it all, i.e. choosing a career, likes to do that, choosing career and children. I'm going to start with this particular slide, if I can put that up first, which I found really interesting from a lady, actually a very influential person called Indra Nooyi, who says women can't have it all. And actually what really struck me is her caption about where her daughter would come home and ask her about various mums that were there at school. And she was riddled with guilt and not being able to do the same for her daughter. Now, Indra Nooyi is an Indian American business executive and a former CEO and chairperson of PepsiCo. What she advised with facing this challenge was that we should train people at work to help us. We should train our family to become extended family. And she said, if you don't develop mechanisms with your co-colleagues, your work, your extended office, and essentially everyone around you, it cannot work, i.e. it's very difficult to have it all. So she highlights that we know that staying at home mum is a full-time job, but she goes on to say that being a CEO of a company could be potentially 3 full-time jobs rolled into one. And how can we do justice to all? In her view, she feels you can't. So the 3 roles could be being the CEO, being a mother, and being a wife or a partner. Now, having it all in the terms of work-life balance, what is the work-life balance? This term is used to describe practices achieving a balance between the demands of an employee's family and their work life. The need for balancing work and family life for working mother is very important. And some of the reasons include, for example, we know that the cost of living issues of bringing up and supporting a family. So there's economical reasons. There's social demands of how we juggle a work and home life without the guilt and attaining fulfillment. There's a career and there's pressures to ensure that this remains on track. There's being actively engaged in one's personal life, and women end up focusing on their career. There's pressure at work, impact on work-life balance itself. How can women continue to make an impact at work is a question we ask ourselves. And women may face more work-life issues than male counterparts. What can we do to help ourselves? So initially, I sort of jotted down a few things that I thought one can do to help. So, for example, joining networks from within the organization that support families. And actually, I thought something quite importantly to ensure opportunities reach groups such as Mother Network, so that mothers, parents have the opportunity to advance their careers or get back into the workplace. I thought training for managers to understand how to manage related questions on work-life balance and how to manage flexible working applications is key. I thought the increased awareness of what is available inside and outside the organization can help. And finally, collecting data and statistics to monitor management of flexible working requests so that we can ensure parity, transparency, and ensure that we are treating everybody fairly. But we go on to say, despite all of these things, actually, they are issues that are faced at work. I'm not embarrassed to say that actually I myself have been a culprit of all of these points, all of them. And that's been over the span of my career as in HR and prior to that as well. So I'm sure we can identify here long working hours, rigidity, workload. Juggling childcare is a huge issue for parents, for mothers. Discrimination in the workplace exists for parents who have children and commitments. Lack of management support is a big factor. Their particular style can certainly impact an employee, and their actual lack of understanding of what the challenges are for parents plays a big part. So what can parents do to manage work-life balances? Well, we can try and balance our priorities. We can try and be aware of current working practices and the environment. And what I mean by that is there's changing ways of working. We've just described Zoom as being something very unique over the COVID period, but things are constantly changing about the way that one completes their work. So therefore, things like technology, how can that play a part in driving efficiency in the way that we can manage work-life balance? We need to tune into our planning skills so that actually we can juggle better, we can organize ourselves better. And sometimes self-performance, we ask ourselves to monitor what areas need improving, whether it be at home or work life or both, and what do we need to do to address that? And I think that's a really fundamental point. I think networking is really key. We need to be able to talk to parents and be able to share ideas so that we don't feel alone in this journey. Now, what does the law state? So under sections 80 of the Employment Rights Act 96, together with Flexible Working Regulations 2014, that govern legislation around managing flexible working requests. But hot off the press, we know that there's immediate changes that have been put legislation through, the bills that have been put through recently that have changed where employees can actually ask for flexible working with no service requirement, i.e. within day one of employment. And I think that's a huge advancement for mothers and parents. I keep going the wrong way, I do apologise. I thought I'd put down a particularly good website that ACAS has for employers and employees, which is an information, just for information, which actually allows employers to build some excellent guidance on how to manage flexible working practices, what different practices, what applications could look like, what suggestions could be considered. And actually the real key thing is that employers should have a comprehensive policy to say, how do they manage flexible working and what rights do employees have? So I think this particular guidance is key for all employers. We're very lucky that actually we embed a lot of all this at Brunel. So what support is available at Brunel? Well, I'm really pleased to say, working in an organisation where I found all of these aspects that are available to parents, to mothers. And you can see there's a suite of areas where people can go for support. I particularly like the recent hybrid working framework that Brunel have brought in, and to give people the opportunity to have flexible in the way that they work. I'll be talking about the fertility treatment support leave, which actually is quite unique to Brunel a little bit later, but I'm really proud to say that there is so many options for us in terms of providing support for people to be able to achieve a work-life balance. So I said I would touch on Brunel's fertility treatment support policy and procedure, which essentially talks about in vitro fertilization and the process of fertilization, which happens outside the woman's body. This process can typically take 4 to 7 weeks of one cycle. Now, although I'm not going to talk in detail about the science behind this, I think it's really important to think about the support that individuals need to go through when undergoing such a process. Unfortunately, with such treatment, it doesn't always result in pregnancy, and therefore additional support needs to be given to staff. There is actually currently no statutory right for employees to take time off work to undergo investigations or treatment. However, I'm pleased to say that our particular Brunel's fertility treatment policy, provides the following support. It provides an approach for employees to talk about what they need whilst going through treatment. It allows for paid leave to undergo treatment and for partners to accompany accompany the employee who's having the treatment, other financial support if employees run out of paid leave, physical and emotional adjustments, Of course, occupational health referral, where particular needs are needed, where particular individuals need bespoke adjustments if they're going through treatment. And again, it's really important to have a network of people that employees can reach out to if they need additional assistance whilst going through this process. Excuse me. They are, of course, employee protected rights during IVF treatment. Now, employees may be unable to work during their treatment and could be signed off sick, but it's important to identify that their sickness absence should be managed in the normal way as we would manage sickness in an organisation. However, women on sick leave during any advanced stages of IVF treatment may claim direct sex discrimination if dismissed, because they're given special protection during what we call a protected period. A protected period includes the very early stages of the embryo transfer in an IVF cycle. If, unfortunately, a protection cycle is unsuccessful, i.e. after 2 weeks there is a pregnancy test, that protection ends at that stage, but they are protected up to that point. I think it's really important that university would treat the employee as being pregnant from the stage of embryo transfer, and our policy is very clear on that. So we talked about protection against dismissal and detriment. We talked about ensuring, and I just mentioned about the 2 weeks and implementation, and about additional protected rights to avoid women being subject to any form of discrimination on the grounds of undergoing this treatment, or what lies ahead if it's a successful cycle, that they go on to the protection under normal maternity leave regulations. So I end on a couple of bullet points here to say, has anyone answered a work email during an important family event? Have we taken a call from your manager while on vacation? Are we always on work culture? And is that not ruining our personal well-being for work as well as ourselves? So in ending in this slide, I say that we should take personal responsibility for our work-life balance. We should identify what we really value in life. We should notice what seems to be the ideal balance is actually in some ways impossible, but we draw a balance in what we want to achieve and what we can. We prioritize what is important to us. We track and review our working hours over a period of time. So this goes back to the slide where I talked about being overloaded, long hours, etc. And from time to time, we stop and think, have I got the balance right? So answering that question, we should do that regularly, because the balance can change all the time. And therefore, I end on one particular statement, which I believe to be true, which is being busy all the time is not the norm. Thank you.